Hi guys, I am going to walk you through some different fashion illustration styles to really reiterate that there is no one right way to do this, and you have to find your style and your voice and what's comfortable for you. I obviously did fashion design for years and years and years and years in undergrad and then also in grad school and then independently. And so I definitely got tired of sketching and definitely got tired of sketching and illustrating in the same way. So I tried to change it up. And I'm just going to show you through my projects ways that I did it differently and how I evolved from the beginning and towards the end. So this is one of my very first collections that I ever did in fashion school, maybe my very first, but definitely, top five, first five collections that I did. And this was really similar to what you guys are going to be doing. It was looking at a designer that exists and making a collection as though you work for them. And so this was Betsy Johnson. At that time, obviously it was quite a while ago. Betsy Johnson, was still really big. I don't know if she is as much now, but I could actually go to a standalone Betsy Johnson store in the mall and see all of these garments and try them on and really study them up close. So that was really helpful. If you can do that whenever you're designing for another designer, that's super, super helpful. So this is a four look collection, and what I've got here is four individual boards. So this is kind of like what I'm saying for your collection. You're going to do an individual page or like a final illustration for each look, and then you'll assemble them all together. So I didn't do that for this, that wasn't required. So you just see the four individual boards. Um, and on each board, garment flats are also included. This was something that was required a lot of us. So a flat is like a technical drawing, so it looks much more flat than your illustration in theory, and you could really see all the details. It's done in black and white, and that way you can imagine it in any color, in any fabric, etc. So I've got flats on these boards as well. The mood is established on each board. I actually screen printed these roses on the background, which were kind of a staple of Betsy Johnson branding at that time, so that you would get this feel throughout. I used the purple board so that you would get the feel of her typical like color imagery and story. And I used some of her actual tags and like promo imagery that I got from the store and kind of cut them up and put them on each board as well. So it just gave you a whole feel of the project with every single piece you were looking at. And these are traditional fashion croquis, and they're rendered with gouache paint. Okay, so this was again really traditional sort of first project that I did. But I do like that on each page, I've got a little bit of that mood throughout. So you do get the feeling the whole time that you're looking at every piece of the project. This was a six look collection. The class was entitled Obi-Wan, and so the inspiration was given to us, and we were all supposed to come up with different variations of this. So we were looking at two different things that were juxtaposed together. So one being the Japanese obi, which is like a traditional Japanese belt. That it's might maybe what you think of when you're thinking of like a karate belt or something like that. It's like a big tied piece of belt fabric that they use in traditional Japanese culture. And we were supposed to also go to the Air and Space Museum in DC, the Smithsonian, and be inspired by that. So taking these two things and putting them together, which was really cool. So I looked at traditional Japanese clothing and looked at the shapes and things that I saw in the Air and Space Museum and tried to blend the two together. So again, here you have traditional fashion croquis rendered in gouache paint. That's just my favorite go-to way to get stuff done. But you see that this is really a collection, right? Like you actually, some of these, I feel like even I have to look really close to make sure that I'm not looking at the same piece, the same sketch, because all the fabrics and colors are cohesive. I've given myself a really narrow fabric and color story. So I've got, like three colors that I'm using, five fabrics that I'm using, and I'm interchanging them throughout. So the whole thing just blends really well and seems like a collection. And you can imagine mixing and matching these pieces. I've got pants, I've got jackets, I've got skirts, I've got dresses. So everything's represented. And then also here is a good thing. I'm showing front and back views, and this is what I want from you. You see how on a page seeing the front and back, it really gives you all the details that you need, especially anything important. Sometimes you can show a side view if that you think is more important or it's going to get more of the effect. And then this is just me working out some of the details. So this was the look that I produced as actual garments, which are on the right here. And you can just see some of the sketches where I was working out the details of how I was going to get to that point. And then this sketch was done in marker, though the colors are very similar to the way that I rendered it in paint. And it looks actually very similar to the way that I rendered it in paint, just a little bit different. And I very rarely use marker, but it is obviously so quick. So it's a great way to just get a sketch down very quickly. And then again, here's something going from sketch to fully completed look, as you see on the model here. So this was a psychedelic menswear collection that I did that was entirely digital. So I wanted to show this because that's the difference. You know, again, if you have the means to do digital illustration, it's definitely faster, could be easier once you kind of get past learning it. And this is what most people are going to be working in. Honestly, these days in the fashion industry, very few people are going to be drawing by hand because they can just knock it out so much faster digitally. And it's just a nice way to change it up if you're used to drawing and you're just over it and you want to try something new. So I've got the mood board on the left here, and you can see it's a digital mood board, a lot of things pieced together. And then I've got a fabric and color board. This is an option. If you don't want to put the fabrics on each individual croquis page, you could just have a board that shows them all, shows the color palette at the top, and then the actual fabrics listed with what they are down at the bottom so that it's really clear and easy. And then I gave a background to it. Honestly, I think some of my backgrounds are a little distracting, but this was also a super early project, probably done my freshman year or sophomore year of fashion school. So I was still kind of figuring it out. But this is the collection. So you see this as a lineup. All my four men's croquis are together lined up in their background, and I created them entirely in Adobe Illustrator. So I drew them, you know, digitally, and then was able to take those fabric swatches I found and just fill it. So you can just place it into the garment and it fills it for you, which is why this looks so nice with some of the printed patterns that are on the fabric. And then I assembled the whole thing in Photoshop. I do have on the right here a flats page. So this is, again, a whole separate page just for all my flats. But honestly, again, I think this background image is too distracting and should have been less opaque so that I can't, you know, really see the details of the flats here. So that's something I could definitely tweak. But digitally, this was a way for me not to have to keep drawing like I was always drawing. Now you're still drawing on, you know, a computer, but it just felt a little different. It changed it up for me. It made it more exciting. It was like a fun new challenge. So I really like, you know, digital as a fun way to experiment with stuff. You can see what programs you can do. Again, if you get a digital drawing tablet, you can have a lot of fun with it. So this was a little bit later, another menswear collection with 3 looks. And again, I was totally over sketches and doing illustrations. You know, in fashion school, you just do hundreds and hundreds of sketches all the time. So I used real fabric to create croquis and embroidery details, and I screen printed the background. So this is like one big piece of fabric for the background. You can see it's kind of folded here because I have it in storage. And I screen printed these scenes as though these guys were like, this was like photographs that I took when I was traveling through France. So these are my photos, and then I screen printed them on the background, and then I basically placed these little fabric men onto the fabric, probably using fabric glue, and then sewed them down myself with some embroidery thread. So this was a way that I could not have to draw. Basically, it was more fun for me to cut out the fabric. I had all these cool swatches of different menswear fabric that I really liked. So I was like, let me just use it. Let me just use it right here. And for me, it was a way to change it up and try something different. So I'm a big fan of trying some collage if that works for you. Here's some details so you can see a little bit clearer. But yes, I was just getting tired of doing traditional sketches, looking for new ways to illustrate and find a new style. So this is a fabric collage style of illustrations. And this again just felt so much more enjoyable, and I could, you know, have fun with it instead of just having to do the same drawing and painting like I always did, which I was starting to get to dread at this point. So this is something I tried even later on when I was in grad school, and again had just been doing this so long. So I was wanting to push the design process to come up with a truly new, unique ideas that I hadn't done before. Basically, I presented a bunch of ideas in a critique, and my new teachers trashed it. They hated everything I did. It was really awful. Just told me how hideous it all was and that I needed to start from scratch and I needed to think outside the box and push myself in whole new directions. And after I like cried inside and was really upset, I was like, fine, I'm going to give them what they want. I'm going to really try things I've never done. So I do not usually do this type of thing, but I did some magazine collage. I looked at lots and lots of magazines and just started cutting up different colors, different textures, different details, and started piecing them together to try to create croquis and designs that I would not have thought about if I was just sketching. I never would have made such like billowy shapes. I just don't do that. I do a lot of tailored pieces that are really tight to the body. So this was a way for me to push myself out of my comfort zone. So I'm a big fan of it. And it was fun and easy and felt like I was crafting. It put my brain in another mindset. So you can see like on the left, this is just, it's like a big purple flower I've given her as a top and then a more traditional skirt. But it's a way to get me thinking, how can I do these big voluminous pieces? And then same, the next girl in sort of the peach, she's got something like sort of thrown on top, but that's not a shirt. I'm not just cutting up pieces of clothing and piecing them together like I'm playing paper dolls. I was trying to push myself. And so even the same for the lace girl on the far right, it's just a lot of textures that I liked, that I saw, that I just put together and tried to think, how can I push myself a place that I haven't been before? So again, this is another, and I stress, look for colors, textures, and details. So not just cutting out clothes and matching them together. If you're going to do this collage style, it's the idea is that you're pushing yourself. So look for blocks of color in a magazine, drapes of fabric, textures of fabric, flowers, abstract imagery, artwork, whatever. Something that isn't just clothing, like how she's got this whole piece of something. I can't even tell what this is. It might be a bunch of feathers, and I've just wrapped it around some body parts. But this really helped me to push the limits of what I was already doing and come up with something truly new. And then if you wanted to take this to the next level, these were just sketches for me to get ideas, but you could then take a collage and draw or paint or embroider on top of it to finish like a really complete fashion collection. A lot of people do this. They have a little bit of collage, a little bit of paint, a little bit of drawing, a little bit of marker. They have just a whole mixed media, and that way they get exactly what they want, but they're really cool. When I would see people do illustrations like this, and I did when I was in school, I saw lots of people that actually worked this way all the time. It always seemed so cool and free to me, and I was kind of jealous. So it's just a way to push yourself out of your comfort zone and try something new. Give it a try, especially if you're stuck. Probably it'll look cool. Probably it'll look cool in a portfolio. You'll feel very artsy. Give it a try. Another way to push yourself out there, this is also, I was completely stuck for new ideas. They were hating everything I was doing. So I said, again, I'm going to try to push myself, try to do something new. So I did draping as sketches. So this is physically draping real fabric on a mannequin in various ways to come up with design ideas. And then I just snapped a quick pic on my phone and printed each one out. They're black and white because I printed them at school, whatever was free and easy. And what happens is just by touching and playing with the fabric, it's going to be some of your best inspiration. This was silk velvet, so it was really lovely to touch. And you can see I'm just draping it on the mannequin, pinning it, pinching it in various places to get designs I never would have come up with. And then what I did is, like I said, I printed it out and then I drew with tracing paper right on top of the designs. So I was able to come up with these truly unique ideas that I never would have thought of on my own. And they were really beautiful and I ended up using them. And here I actually then took it a step further and painted on the tracing paper with gouache. So I was able to get like final croquis out of this, and I never would have come up with these designs if I was just sketching on my own. This was a very new, different way for me to work. So very inspirational, and I strongly suggest it. So hopefully you've learned some new techniques that you can try with this.